What's going on, everyone, and welcome to the Personal Training Institute podcast. So today I am joined by the awesome Luke Leaman from Muscle Nerds, and trust me, guys, you are going to want to dial in on this because I know the first time I ever took a course with Luke, it was just literally 3 days and my head was fried. I remember I walked Waterloo Bridge and I was like, this is going to be fun putting this into practice. How am I going to do it? But then the constant support, that is one thing I know, the constant support ongoing, you just kind of like, all right, I'm all right then. I'm capable.
Yeah.
You know, it's the biggest thing. And that's one thing I've learned from Muscle Nerds so much. I'll let you introduce yourself, but yeah, that's one thing I've learned so much is knowing this stuff. And one thing I've always said to people is Luke will give you everything, but you have to go away and learn more and apply and know how to use it. You're going to give us the answers, but yeah, it was so awesome. So awesome. It changed everything the way I do things, man. Seriously.
Oh, that makes me happy to hear. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things too, is it's not enough to just give people information. You have to get them wanting to learn more, because I can only teach so much in a certain period of time. So the goal is to get people interested in wanting to go deeper into things, go away, do what you can, then come back to another course. And every time you come back, you're going to be seeing things from a different perspective. And, a lot of guys, a lot of trainers, when they come to our courses, it's full on, like I'm full on, I'm a maniac. And I like to give, I've been told I give too much information, like I'm doing too much, but to me, I would rather overwhelm people and make them go, what the fuck just happened? And then it's like, cool, if you took good notes, you've got a lot of stuff you can go and play with. You don't have to understand everything right now. And the more you study and the more you come to courses, the more you're going to get a better frame of reference on how this stuff fits in. And look, like you said, the after the course support is incredibly important. I spend a lot of money on my own education because I have to stay on top of my game to pull bits and pieces and figure out how that's going to help you guys. If there's so many courses where you get zero support, there's no forum, there's no way of asking questions or clarification, and it's a real disservice. So if people are taking courses and those companies aren't giving you after educational support, don't bother with them anymore, because you need to be able to clarify things, because some of the stuff we talk about is potentially dangerous if you use it in the wrong way, or sometimes it just doesn't work. And you need to be able to say, hey, why isn't this working? Then we can say, hey, did you think about this, this, and this? Oh, okay. So maybe I should do this first and then that. Okay, good. Now it works.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the biggest takeaways I remember, and this is going a little bit into the course, so I hope you don't mind me just saying it, but the leg press with someone with high blood pressure and the Valsalva maneuver and everything along those, and you're like, I was like, crap, I put everyone on the leg press.
Yeah. Look, the last 3 days, as you know, we're putting out a hypertension course. Yeah. And I think it's probably going to be one of the most important courses we've ever done. And my wife, Zoe, who's been on your podcast before, she was looking into some things and saying, what actually is out there? Almost pretty much every single course that she was able to find was basically for doctors. And it wasn't about training and lifestyle and nutrition and stress management and all that stuff. It was basically like, if they have this, give them this drug. If they get side effects from that drug, give them this drug. There's nothing out there like what we're creating, which is allowing coaches and also the general population. We're doing it in a way where even if you're not a coach, you can get this and immediately apply it. Or if you are a coach, you could get it and apply it to your clients. And you would probably tell your clients to get it as well, because it'll be able to explain everything in a way that they understand. And in some of the research we did, there was a study from 1985, and they wanted to see how different exercises and exercise parameters affected blood pressure. And what they found was the leg press can increase your blood pressure over 350 over 200. And in one subject, it was over 450 systolic and 300 and something diastolic, which is absolutely insane. And if you consider, if you already walk into the gym and you have high blood pressure and you get on a machine and put a lot of loading on there and work the failure with like 80 to 90% of your 1 rep max on a bilateral movement that's creating that much pressure, that is going to massively exponentially raise your blood pressure. And there's a lot of people who say, well, that won't matter because you're only doing it for, say, 40 seconds or whatever. Well, I have to disagree, because if you're already walking around with insults to your cardiovascular system, it's already taxed. You're already plaquing. You already have vascular resistance. Every single second that you're under that load, you're creating more and more trauma. And you never know. You may have somebody that comes in that has, almost full blockage of their arteries. 1 rep may be the one that strokes them out, right? Yes. So, and we don't want to be the catalyst for that, right?
Oh, for definite. And that's the thing. And goes on to one of our points is you've got to, and I knew the importance of it, but again, I was one of those trainers who's like, let's just get them into the gym. Before I come onto a Muscle Nerds course, and then I started to learn about the metrics. I learned how that then got put into place when it come into a program, and then how all that reflects on each part of the program. And then it's kind of like, oh shit. There could be a ton of things that I'm doing that I think I'm doing well, but I'm actually causing potential risks and problems.
Yeah.
And I need to look at everything now.
And that's the thing, exercise can be a double-edged sword. Like, we know we need to exercise, we need to move more when you use it, but picking what type of exercise is going to be dependent on how that client is. So you have to take those metrics, blood pressure and heart rate and all that, and make good, intelligent decisions on how to program, how hard we need to push, how to load it, rest periods, and what exercises you need to opt for, right? So and most trainers aren't taught this stuff, unfortunately. They're amped up to just get in the gym and start training people without thinking about the fact that that client could be a ticking time bomb, and you may be the catalyst that actually gives them a heart attack or a stroke or an embolism or something like that.
And there you go, guys. That's the introduction to Luke. And this is why when I say you have to go and learn from Luke, all Muscle Nerds as a whole, you understand why now. Like, we kind of passed the whole introduction, but in terms of like, how did you get into this stuff? Because how was that journey to kind of then get to the point where you're at now? Because that would be quite interesting, because I know we all started at different points.
Yeah, well, okay, so all right, you have to kind of imagine where I'm from. So I'm from a small Texas town. Like, if you've ever watched Friday Night Lights or Varsity Blues, which I did stunts in, side note, that's the town I'm from, where the whole town shuts down, everybody plays football. And so I grew up being a multi-sport athlete, and I just really loved training, man. I love training. I started lifting weights when I was like 7 or 8 years old. Mainly for American football, and because I idolized Arnold Schwarzenegger and I wanted to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And when I left high school, I wanted to go to college because I was going to be a physical therapist. And realistically, I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon, but unfortunately, I come from a middle-class family that didn't really have the means for the schooling and all that, so I just gave up on that. And I was going to go for physical therapy, but I ended up going for computer programming instead, because this is back right when the tech boom in the late 90s, and so I went to college to be a computer programmer and realized I am the odd duck out here. Like, I'm looking around, I'm a 110 kilo bodybuilder, and I'm sitting here in class with all these Poindexters, and I just felt really out of place. So I left college at the time, and I was trying to find my way through the world, what I wanted to do. And I decided, you know what, I want to start personal training. I want to be a strength coach. And I had been studying, as part of my lifting routine, I've been studying Charles Poliquin. And a lot of the stuff that I learned from him, it worked really well for me. And then when I was helping friends with their workouts, it worked really helpful for them as well. And so I got a personal trainer certification, and I saved up my money, and I did my first internship with Charles. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of options for education. So you had like Paul Chek, you had Charles Poliquin, and you'd have to get on a plane and fly a long distance to learn from these. Or like with the Chek stuff, it was funny. When I did my first Paul Chek course, you would order the course. It would show up in the mail. You would get a binder and you would go through that. You get VHS tapes and you'd watch the VHS tapes, and then you get the tests out of the back, and you would do the test and you would fax it to the Chek Institute, and they would mail you your certification. Like, that's how long ago this was. And so I got into doing a lot of the Chek stuff, Egoscue Clink for pain, Charles. I finally went in 2007, did my first course with Charles. And then I fell in love with the culture that was the Poliquin Strength Institute at the time. When I did my level 2, did my biosig, did my level 3, did my level 4. And then Charles asked me to come on and become a coach. And so when I came on to be an educator, that was kind of the start of it. I was invited to come lecture. I did that. And then years later, I actually went to it. Now it was, instead of the Poliquin Strength Institute, it had turned into the Poliquin Group. I was asked to come on as a lead instructor, which I did. And when I showed up, Charles had left, Andre had left, Ryan Finley had left, and it was just like me and Derek Woodsky. And I kind of showed up. It's like, where is everybody? It's just you and Derek now. I'm like, oh, cool. And so then it was just a whirlwind of traveling all over the world and teaching coaches. But what I found in that, and the education from that was great. That was my big start. But what I found is that most of the coaches that were coming to learn at Poliquin Group, they trained Gen Pop. They didn't train athletes, and we were teaching them how to train Olympic athletes, national level athletes, world level athletes. And so a lot of the stuff that we were teaching them was not necessarily applicable in real life to normal everyday people. So when I left Poliquin Group, my wife and I met in Sydney. And at this time, she had quit both of her jobs, sold her car, and she flew to America to be with me. And now she didn't have a job. And now I left Poliquin Group. I didn't have a job. And I said, well, what do we do? And so I announced that I'd left Poliquin Group, and all of these people just started emailing me. 200 something people emailed me saying, hey, will you come here and do a course? Will you do your course? Hey, can I work with you? I didn't want to work with Poliquin Group, but I want to work with you. And I went, shit. So then it became a mad dash to actually put course material together. And we decided we would start out by teaching the one demographic that no one's teaching: normal people. Basic fundamental stuff, modulating chronic stress, metabolic syndrome, all that stuff. And we would just fill this gap that no one else was teaching about. And that was like seven years ago.
And now look at you.
Yeah. So it just blew up, right?
Yeah.
And blew up.
Would you say through that journey is kind of your philosophies around training has changed as well, maybe even towards yourself in comparison?
Massively. Yeah. Because, I trained a lot of athletes and I trained normal people. So I was had my feet in both of those worlds. So I kind of saw the difference between the psychological and mental state of an athlete and the physiological, and genetic difference between that and normal people. There's a lot of differences there. So a lot of the stuff that I knew from Poliquin, I had to modify that depending on, if you're 20 years old, you could throw anything at them and they just respond. You're dealing with a 41-year-old mother of 2. You can't do those things. They cannot do it. So we'd have to modify that. So I started getting into, thinking about that health aspect of what do normal people actually need? They want to be pain-free. They want to lose weight. They want to build strength, but they don't care about being powerlifters. They just want to be functional. So it's like, how much strength do they need? How do we get rid of the pain? How do we rectify their blood sugar problems, their hypertension problems? And how do we fit it in with a busy schedule when they're not like us as trainers? They don't live in a gym. They don't have the time to train. How do we do it in the most logical progression possible? And what's the most important thing for them? Because that's different than a power lifter, a bodybuilder, or an Olympic athlete. They have different goals and they have different priorities and they have different situations. So yeah, it did. And I would say too, now that I'll be 44 next month. So a lot of, as you age, you start realizing, well, I can't handle that volume anymore. I can't handle this. I've got to get more sleep. I have to be more diligent on my diet. It's harder to lose body fat. It's harder to stay motivated. And then owning multiple businesses, that even compounds on that. So stress reduction is a big deal. So yeah, I would say, I wouldn't say my philosophies have changed. I would say that I've just added to them to broaden out my knowledge base of different demographics.
Like everything has its place somewhere.
Yes.
On that continuum
absolutely.
line. And,
absolutely.
And I'm literally going to say, if you are 44, I want to look like you at 44. I don't look like you, and I am 29 as of the other day.
It's stress management, my friend. It's just keep your stress levels down.
Look what happens if you're stressed.
See, it doesn't run in my family, so I've never really had to worry about it. But
it runs in mine.
You look good with it, though. You look good. Like I couldn't handle it because my head's lumpy. So it looks like when I was in high school, I did a buzz cut, and it looked like I'd been dropped on my head a few times. So it's not a great look for me.
I thought the same. I was thinking, rugby player, like doing that stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna have dents here, there, and everywhere in that skull. There's something gonna be going on here somewhere.
Yeah. But some guys just look good. Some guys, like, you got a nice smooth head, like it looks good, right? Like mine's all lumpy and shit, and it like my skull goes like up and divots up, and it's really weird.
I've got one weird point. This is really weird. I've got one weird point here, and I think it's where my mum dropped me on my head when I was young. She did tell me that she dropped me on my head.
It's quite possible. I've got them all in the back of my head, so I think I was slammed around a bit.
But moving away from the head, in terms of periodization, because it's one thing that we're seeing a lot of now, that is periodization is kind of taken a backseat, especially for general population. And I know I started to fall that way as a trainer, and then kind of went back and went, no, this is not working. I need to go back to the right periodization. But keep it maybe a little bit more simple. I was going a bit off on, like, it was again doing concurrent training, doing undulated training for someone who'd barely touched a weight before in their life. So again, it's a learning process, and that's one thing I'd say to all our people that are listening to this, all our learners. It's a learning process. You're not going to get it right first time. But in terms of periodization, I know when I've sat with you and we've kind of listened to you say block quite big in terms of the months. How would you say that looks, and why is it so important that we do as trainers periodize, especially for general population, with the majority of people we're going to be working with?
So there's a lot you can unpack with this, right? So most of the time when people think about periodization, they think about athletic periodization, right? You've got, you're starting here, you want to end here, and this is what we do to get you there. Now, to me, periodization just means I'm making a plan. Right? You should have a long-term plan in place for people, or you have no idea where you're going, right? You don't want to be that trainer. It's like, it's a Friday, you want to have Saturday, Sunday off. Oh shit, my clients need programs for Monday. And now you're trying to really write programs really fast. And that's what a lot of trainers do when they first get in the game. And I did that a lot, when I didn't take it as seriously and I first started, I was that trainer, or I would just make shit up on the fly. Oh, that's open, let's go do that. But, personal training nowadays has gotten to the point where, it's a really heavily saturated market, and you got to separate a professional trainer, professional program design from the schmucks who shouldn't really be in the industry, and they're probably not going to last. So when you look at the periodization for just Gen Pop, there's so many things you can focus on. Like if you're focusing on, let's say, the majority of people are coming to you for fat loss. I mean, that's the thing, right? I can count on one hand how many people come to me and say, I want to build a big deadlift, or I want to get jacked as fuck, or whatever. Most people are coming to you because you look at women are like, I'd like to be able to go to the beach this season and wear a one-piece bathing suit and not feel embarrassed, or I want to fit in a size 12 pants that I haven't worn since college. Or you might have guys that are like, I'd love to look down and see my ding-a-ling once in a while. I haven't seen it in like 10 years. I have to feel around down there because I don't even know if it's there anymore. Yeah. It's that type of stuff, right? If you're losing fat, that's cool, but there's so many other things that you can get specific on. How about a conditioning goal? Would you like to run a 5K without stopping? Would you like to be able to hike with your kids and not get gassed after 30 minutes? You can look at strength goals. I'd like to be able to walk up a flight of stairs without my legs being on fire. Like, there's all kinds of other things you can link into there. And then a lot of it for me nowadays is the health aspect. Like, I have clients that come and they look, how do I keep my brain from aging? Cool. Let's talk about brain inflammation. Let's talk about microglial cells and astrocytes and all that stuff. We can do that. Let's talk about anti-aging. Oh, I see that you're a bit hypertensive and your resting heart rate's high. That's all stuff that can be periodized. And like I said, the last 3 days I've been filming the first part of our hypertensive course and heart disease course that we're bringing out. And man, if you want to become if you want to get what's the word I'm looking for? Like terrified. You want to get terrified about your cardiovascular system, learn a bunch about this, because then you're looking at your Garmin going, oh my God, my resting heart rate's sitting here at 80. Oh my God, I'm going to die. It makes you a hypochondriac like crazy. But, there's so many people that are walking around that are ticking time bombs. Part of that periodization might be setting this up to where you have a client comes in, they say, I'd like to lose fat, build some muscle, get a little bit stronger, get a little bit more condition. Cool. Oh, I see that you have stage 2 hypertension. That's going to change a lot. So the first phases of that periodization may be, we need to work on stress management and do the right types of exercise to get your blood pressure down, the right supplementation and nutrition to get your blood pressure down, because we don't really want to move on those specific goals until we get this health aspect down first. Because if you lose a lot of weight and then have a heart attack, what's the point? Yeah. So like Gen Pop, to me, if you don't periodize for them, you have no idea what you're doing. Now, you don't have to get crazy and act like they're an Olympic athlete, but you should have a logical sequence of sets and reps and exercise selection and that type of thing, and have it done in a logical, organized order so that your client knows where we're starting and where we're trying to end up. And if you understand this, then you'll understand how long is this going to take? Like, if I want to lose 15 kilos, how long is that going to take if you do everything right and your body responds well? If I want to put 25 kilos on my bench press, how long is that going to take? And what do I need to fix to make that happen? So you might have to fix a weakness and a sticking point. Maybe you need more eccentric strength. Maybe you just need to work on heavy reps, whatever that may be. But if you want something that's dialed in and predictable and professional, you have to put the pieces of the puzzle together in the right order. And if you're not writing the plan, you're basically putting a puzzle together, but all the puzzle pieces are upside down. So you can't really fit them in together properly.
And that's the thing is, I was the same. I was that trainer. You kind of go in, you write up on the day, quickly 10 minutes before the session, and then you get into it and you're like, shit, it doesn't work. And then you're flying it and you're just like, go here, go there, that's free. And that's the thing. And that's one thing when going through the program design courses, everything linked. So if you improve someone's health, you will improve their fat loss. So although you might be going, oh, right now I'm only, I'm having to work on your health. If you then go, well, if we do X, Y, and Z, this ends up leading you to the goal that you want anyway, and you're possibly going to do it better. You're going to do it in a healthier way, and it's going to be quicker, but potentially in terms of being able to keep it off as well. And I know we've spoke about that before in terms of the course, but how would, say, a trainer coming in say, look, I have to focus on your health now, but this is going to relate to your goal and how it can improve? And what are some of the improvements that do happen?
Number one, very easy. Sign up for my program design course, because then you get all kinds of information. But a lot of it is taking good, proper assessments, right? So as you've heard me talk about a lot, like, let's say typical scenario of a new coach, they just gotten their certification and that they somebody calls them and says, hey, I'd like to come in and talk to you about training. So you begin the sales process. Well, what do most trainers do? Come in and let me put you through a session and show you how awesome I can thrash your body. It's like, okay, all right, hold up 1 second. You've not taken any metrics. You don't have a medical history. You don't have an orthopedic profiling. You have no idea what they should or shouldn't be doing. There's a lot of other stuff that should be happening. I won't even take somebody and train them before I've done a proper assessment. I need to see what's your joint range of motion, because if you have horrible range of motion somewhere and I put you in a position that's going to cause damage, we're causing impingement issues and nerve issues. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen. So we realistically got to take metrics, got to measure things, then we can create some type of action plan to now resolve these problems, because it's just like anything else. If you had your air conditioner's not working, I'm not an air conditioning technician. I have no idea. So I've got to call somebody to come in and have a look at my air conditioner, right? I can't just start ripping stuff off the air conditioning unit, try to put it together. I have no idea what I'm doing. So it's the same type of thing. I have a problem. This person has a solution, but they still have to come in and diagnose what the actual issue is before they can work on the system. Personal training is the same way. Fixing your car, it's the same thing. You have to be able to come in and take some type of metrics. You have to diagnose before you just start replacing things or altering things. So, some of the initial things, taking heart rate, taking your blood pressure, those are the two things that you can take them often and you can track them often, and you can also see immediate results with that. And that's going to allow you to understand what you should work on first. And probably what's most important isn't what we need to do to rectify. The most important thing is, what should I not do because I'll make it worse? Yes. So, that's kind of the main thing, getting your assessments, understanding what those assessments mean, and then being able to figure out what the biggest problems are that we need to rectify first before we work on other things.
For definite. And that was, again, I'm going to go off my experiences. It's one thing that I started to notice, that everything links onto one another. And but those first metrics have to be taken, or otherwise it's simply you're guessing. You're just guessing. But the thing is, those metrics have to then be taken consistently. It can't just be a kind of once in a blue moon sort of thing, then I'll retake it again. Then it has to be consistent, or otherwise you're just kind of like, I don't know you're not really getting an insight of what's going on. In terms of, again, getting people to do it who are clients, because of course people who are listening are going to be dealing with clients in terms of that. How would you get someone to kind of go, is there any ones that you're like, okay, specifically, I want you to go heart rate monitor, blood pressure machine? Is there any specifics that you're like, I might chuck those out, but I'll keep those in?
Yeah, it depends, because we have a laundry list of different things that you could measure, but you also have to weigh their compliancy against that. And so you've got to pick what is the most important thing, because we could take a lot of stuff. We could take body temperature daily. We could take fasting blood sugar, postprandial blood sugar, preprandial blood sugar. We could take lactate testing, VO2 max testing, blood pressure. There's a lot of stuff that we could take. So just speaking from experience, your client, if it's too much of a pain in the ass, they might do it for a small amount of time, but they're not going to carry over from it. So I would say that you need to find what are the most important things you're trying to fix, and what are the easiest things to do, and then work those into a routine. And those things, while you're not at a stable level, probably should be taken pretty consistently. But once they're fairly stable, you can then taking those metrics every day is probably not something you have to do. But once you feel off, and people will know when they feel off. What typically happens is, most people who come to us have felt so terrible for so long that they don't know what it feels like to feel normal. Their normal, their idea of normal, is feeling like shit all the time. So once you rectify that, make them feel good, they'll wake up and go, all right, something doesn't feel right. I should probably take my blood pressure and my heart rate. And that's cool to know too, because when you're doing the training, let's say you're driving people into some more extreme levels of training, like really heavy loads, grinding out reps, stuff that's going to bash in your nervous system. It's good to know, to have that feedback from your client where they wake up and they say, you know what, James, I didn't feel really right this morning. So I took my blood pressure and it's starting to elevate, my resting heart is starting to elevate. That tells you, okay, this program's run its course. You're now overreaching. Let's switch emphasis and move to something else that's not going to be as neurologically demanding. Let all those metrics get back to normal, and then we can start bashing you again. So we can allow the biometrics to tell you how long they can stay on a system before we need to switch off to something different.
And in terms of, it kind of links on quite nicely into the next question is, in terms of what's one of the main things that ends up for most of the people that we're going to be working with as trainers, is what's that one common denominator that ends up causing the biggest issue? Is there something like they do outside in terms of their work, their training levels, their nutrition? Is there one kind of common denominator that we can look at and start learning about more and how to kind of improve that?
I think, you know what, man, the one common denominator that has just over the last couple of decades of me doing this, it's always some type of chronic stress. It's either stress has gotten to a level that you can't recover from, or your perception of stress is skewed and you don't have stress resilience. There can also be, you've got metabolic buffers that help with stress. So if you imagine, people are moving along at this homeostatic level. So your body likes to kind of go on cruise control. And then in order to create some type of adaptation, we need a stressor, and then we supercompensate from that, and that makes a more rugged machine. But if you have a lot of stressors hitting you all at once, or over time, they're just chipping away, your ability to recover from that stress starts to now maladapt instead of adapt. So that's probably the biggest one, is learning stress management, learning how to change your perception of how stress affects you, having a more positive attitude, even when the shit's hitting the fan, having a life purpose. Like, a lot of people aren't even living. They're just waiting to die pretty much. So having something to live for, having a more positive outlook on things. And that's actually been shown in the research. People who have a more positive versus negative outlook, it actually extends your life by about 7 years. Okay. So if you have people who are always, self-deprecating, poor self-confidence, always bashing themselves, lack of self-confidence and things like that, if we can flip that switch, everything gets better. Their health gets better. They lose weight a lot faster. They put on muscle a lot faster. So I would say, getting control of your brain and getting control of your brain's response to stressors makes the world of difference, above and beyond anything else. So if I could pick two things I could improve on someone, I would say we need to learn how to manage our stress and our reaction to stressors much better. And the second one is sleep. Get more sleep, get more deep, restful sleep, practice sleeping, sleep longer, try to get more deep wave sleep. That's been the number one thing that I've seen that regulates everything, and everything trickles down from there.
That's the thing. And that's, you as trainers, we might not be able to affect that in terms of what we do within a gym, although we can, which we'll get into in a minute. But in terms of just, we've said it before, we say it again, simply giving a shit about the people that you work with, and not just going, I only work with you in the gym, but understanding you work with this person and give them guidance outside of the gym. There are going to be things that you can still influence by telling people to improve on. Again, and know why you're saying it. Don't just, and this is why it's important to go onto a course like program design or the nutrition, or when hypertension comes out, going on to that course. Because then it's not just simply go and sleep, or you need to shut your curtains. It's going, okay, you need to shut your curtains because then you're blocking that sunlight coming in, which then can set off this, or whatever it is, or this is why you need a bedtime routine. So always understanding why. And that's one thing I learned from you, from Muscle Nerds, is here's the why, now go and kind of learn how to put it into place.
Yeah. And it's it's all fine and dandy for people to tell people what to do, but you have to be able to speak it with conviction. You have to be able to speak from a level of love and understanding and actually caring about people. And you have to educate them why this is important, because if you say, look, if everyone knows they need to sleep more, everybody knows they need to eat better and exercise better, but if you can explain the benefits, people are more likely to do it. And if you can come from a level of, okay, let's give you a protocol. Okay, I see that you're not hitting the protocol in some places. How do we make this simpler so it fits in? Let's work on one thing at a time. When we master that, let's add something else. But you know, a lot of coaches, they feel like their time and their expertise with that client is in that 30 minutes or 1 hour that they're training with them. Your job, at least nowadays, your job is way more comprehensive than that. So if you're not giving people counseling on how to sleep better, stress management techniques, here's some books, videos, audio, look at my Instagram, this and that type of thing, you're not doing what your client needs, because just thrashing somebody in the gym is not part of your job description. And if you don't do it, guess what? Someone else like me will do that for them. You know, you've got to, nowadays, you can't afford to just, you know, my client's going to see me 3 hours a week. Nowadays, you have to be a little bit on call for your clients, because if you want them to make good results, you have to give them a lot of support. You have to give them supportive material. You have to educate them, because the way I teach you guys in program design and foundations, all these other courses, the more educated you can make your client, the better of a client they're going to be. And what trainers should be doing is teaching clients. I want to teach people how to be self-sufficient. I'm going to teach clients, you can do this on your own. You don't actually need me. So at some point you can leave and you should be able to train yourself and write your own nutrition, and you should know what to do. Now, I'm happy to take your money and I'm happy to train you for as long as you want. But my goal is to make it where you don't actually need me. You need to be like that chick. I don't need no man. You need to be that way. Now, if you want me to keep with the expertise, that's fine. But you should, if something should happen to me, or if something should happen and you can't financially commit to training or whatever it is, you should feel confident that you now know how to lift safely. You understand a proper workout. You understand how to eat, how to sleep, and you don't actually need me to be there and babysit you.
And I would just want to add on, because it popped into my head. Was it lockdown? I think it was just before lockdown happened over here in the UK. You know, I'd done program design through the course, always go through it, try and jump onto the calls when the calls kind of fit time, or if not, I go back on the calls and stuff like that. But one of the other things that I did, and this goes to any coach out there who's looking to get into the industry, if you can't afford one-to-one coaching, go down the group online coaching through Muscle Nerds as well. And that's what I did. And what it did for me was kind of go, here's the program design course, and then here's what I'm learning. Here's how you apply it, and here's how you, and I took so much away from that, from what I'd already learned, and kind of gone, I do know how to put this into place, but then I understood it at a better level by jumping onto the group online. And yeah, you know, I also achieved results. I also, as I said, shaved my chest. I went from the big bear to looking like a 5-year-old kid.
How many razors did you use to shave all that hair off?
I think I broke it. I think I broke it. I had to get a new one. It's 50 quid.
That actually, not the shaving, but you talking about like the lockdown stuff. That was an eye opener for me. Because I didn't realize, if you remember, like everyone in the program design group, they all start freaking out because a lot of the coaches that come to us, they have a good understanding of what to do in the gym. But if you take their tools away, you take their machines and their cables and their dumbbells and barbells, they have no idea what to do. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when you have a client that's locked down, and they can't actually leave their house and they don't have any equipment, what do? That's why we started teaching a lot more like body weight training, calisthenic stuff. So for the coaches listening to this, don't get married to any one ideology. Don't get married to your barbells and dumbbells. You need to understand how to train the body with or without tools, because if you can write a structured program with overhead presses, you need to understand, what do I do when I don't have my tools? Well, I can do pike presses. I can do handstands. There's a lot of stuff you can do at home because, who knows when the next pandemic and lockdowns and all that stuff are going to happen. You don't want to be the guy that's kind of stuck with your dingling in your hand going, I don't know what to do with this. Like, you have to have more skills than just, whatever your identity is. If you're a power lifter, that's great. Powerlifting is not for everybody. If you're a bodybuilder, that's great. That's not for everybody. The people who didn't suffer during lockdowns that had clients are the movement guys that know animal flow. They know how to do that. They know how to scale things like push-ups and pike presses and single leg squats. If you know how to do that, you probably won't lose any clients when stuff like that happens. It's super important to make sure, if you are a trainer, that you have a very broad knowledge base of not lifting weights, but how to create tension and how to create structured programs by training the body, because that's what we should be focused on. How do I train the body?
Yeah, and that goes back, and I'd say that's, going back to the first part we even spoke about, and me saying the support system that happened within Muscle Nerds during that time was insane. Because I do remember, because even I was the same, I'm not gonna lie. Lockdown happened, I was like, oh shit. All I've done is use weights. And although I've done martial arts, so I've done a lot of body weight stuff and stuff like that, so it did kind of give me a helping hand. I was like, possibly not gonna end up getting my clients doing dragon kicks up and down their room, because they're possibly gonna kick the shit out of half the stuff. So I was like, oh no. And then Muscle Nerds started coming, and I was like, I know it sounds like I'm really I am really promoting, because I expect all my learners, trust me, are going to get pushed towards Muscle Nerds. Like, go that way, go. You've qualified for us, now go and go and learn. But yeah, it's literally that. So move it on to the next, because I know time. In terms of kind of programming, again, I know. But I'd love to introduce everyone to it. One thing that you come out and you kind of spoke about it earlier is about, we as trainers, we normally get someone in and we thrash the shit out of them just to kind of go, hey, look at us, I can smash you into a million pieces. And it's most likely not the way to go. Does it have its place at some point? Potentially. But for most people, my camera's gone. So whoever's watching us on YouTube, just see me start waving it. I'm not waving it anyway. For most people, it's going to be another approach and kind of improving a certain system. What's that system and why is it so important? And, what's the thing that Muscle Nerds come up with? Let's introduce people to it who don't know about it.
Well, you got to clarify what we're talking about here. Which part? There's so much stuff we've done.
Mode.
Oh, Leastmode. You want that Leastmode? You want to talk about Leastmode? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Leastmode, this is probably one of the most convoluted topics too, because it's evolved over the years, and it's also been misconstrued by people that might have heard me talk about this before, but maybe on a podcast, because there's only so much information you give on a podcast, so, and on social media and things like that. So as the story goes, I was, Zach Trowbridge, you've seen him on the forum, one of my best mates. We were laughing one day at some Instagram people who were hashtag beast mode and all this. And we were watching their workouts going, fuck, they're not beast moding. What a wimpy little workout. Like, they need to stop saying beast mode. And we started kind of making fun in between ourselves about this stuff. And he said, well, it looks more like hashtag least mode. And I went, oh man, that's good. And I wrote that down and I put that in my back pocket. And then later, I started thinking about like scalability and like meeting people where their current abilities are. And I thought, man, a lot of people who go in and thrash themselves aren't ready for that. They have to maybe scale a lot of that stuff back and start thinking about, if I'm going to beast myself out, I need to be in a good state of recovery. I need to be good mentally and psychologically and physically to be able to recover from that. So when we look at that stress element that we talked about earlier, the more stressed you are, the less likely you're going to be able to recover from absolute beast mode training. So then we created this kind of yin and yang thing of beast mode is yang and least mode is yin. And the reason this has been kind of convoluted is because people look at least mode and think, oh, least mode is pussy mode. It's like your wimpy mode, but it's not about that. It's not about doing easy stuff. It's about looking at where you are on this continuum and saying, okay, if beast mode is at the worst, craziest, highest volume, craziest shit I could do, least mode is the antithesis of this. Least mode is more about get in, go really hard, but limit the exposure to only what you can actually recover from and deal with at that point. And possibly utilizing more recovery stuff, more aerobic conditioning over anaerobic conditioning, more metabolic work over neural work. So if you look at this timeline or this continuum, on one side with the beast mode, you might have really heavy lifting, high volume stuff, HIIT training, sprint training, all that. On the least mode side, it's more about metabolic works, giant sets. It's more about incomplete rest, a higher rep schemes, and more recovery and aerobic style training. And they both fit in really well with each other. What we were talking about with taking the biometrics. So let's say you have a client come in and maybe they came in and everything was good, no orthopedic issues, great range of motion, no pain, they sleep well, no blood pressure issues, no issues. You can basically throw whatever you want at them depending on what their goal is. So let's say you get 4 weeks down the road and they start getting symptomatic of overreaching, not recovering well, their sleep's messed up, their appetite. Well, now we can say, well, the beast mode stuff was working for a good 4 weeks, but now it's actually starting to create a backslide. You're actually regressing. Let's switch to the least mode stuff and focus on recovery, aerobic work. Let's focus on more stretching. Let's focus on metabolic lifting instead. Allow those metrics to recover, and then you can go back to the beast mode stuff. So that's kind of it's a really huge, big, broad topic, but most of it is just like put somebody on the sliding scale where they are and train them. But if you see that they're starting to regress because of a lot of high intense training and not recovering well, you can always slide them back the other direction.
Yeah, massively. And it works on a continuum, but that continuum doesn't have to go in one direction.
Yeah, it's a two-way continuum. So you can always slide people back and forth and jump around this continuum. A lot of it really lines up well with like stuff that like Mike Israetel talks about, minimal effective volume versus maximal recoverable volume. A lot of people will go straight to maximal recoverable volume and they'll say, how much can I do and still recover? That's not what we should be looking at. We should be looking at what adaptation am I looking for? What is the minimal amount of work to maintain that? What's the minimal amount that will progress me? And what's the maximal? You're going to fit in somewhere on that continuum, and you're going to fit on that continuum at different places at different times of your training.
Yeah. And I know for me, I remember when I first started off, you go in there and it was that kind of like, how much can I push someone? But then you didn't see their face in that gym for about a week. And you'll be lucky if they come back. And
that's it.
So this not only one, and it's the main thing we should be focusing on, is improving someone's health and improving all of those things. Also means your client's going to come back and see you again.
That's right. And like I one of the gyms I used to work at, that people called me the butcher, because I would just thrash people, and I'd get off on like this weird fetish of seeing people throw up after a workout. But then I quickly realized after a while, somebody would come in and maybe they would sign up for say 12 sessions. They wouldn't come back and sign up again. And I quickly realized that most people don't want to feel crippled all the time. They don't want to have to install a handicap rail in the bathroom of their home because they can't get off the shitter after taking a poo. Like they don't want to feel miserable. They just want to lose some weight, look better in their clothes, feel better, move better, be a little bit stronger. And then so I had to reassess my viewpoint of how people should train versus how they actually need to train to get to their goals. And I had to realize that people don't need to do crazy monster workouts all the time. And most people probably don't want to do that anyways. And most people aren't even in a position where they're qualified to do that. So we have to start them out small, and then we keep turning the volume up on the training until we find a level that's too much. And then we take them back down a little bit.
How that? What's the craziest thing you've ever done where you were left like, I'm fucked, I can't move? Because I know for me, it was, I done a triple drop set on every single set for 5 sets on tricep extensions. And I walked around, I think I put this on because you Muscle Nerds put out a question. I walked around like C3PO for about a week. Like, yes, Luke Skywalker. I couldn't literally do shit. I was fucked. Yeah. What's the worst you done?
I've got quite a few stories. I probably though, I'll tell you the worst physically, and then I'll tell you the worst mentally and psychologically. So the worst physically, I was in London and I was teaching. Zoe was with me, and Phil Lerney calls me and says, "Hey, come out, get on the train, come out, let's get a session in." I was like, cool. So I went out there and like, what are we doing? He goes, we're going to do high rep legs. He loves high rep legs. He didn't tell me he'd already been doing this training program for like 6 to 8 weeks. And I never did that type of high rep legs ever. So it was like 4 sets of 25 on 4 quad exercises and 3 hamstring exercises. Then we did duck walks at the end. And of course, the big macho man alpha ego thing, I'm just going ham. I'm falling down and they're lifting the weight up, and I didn't realize I was killing myself for no reason. And after the workout, I was fine for a good 15-20 minutes, but then I sat down and we're all talking and I decided to stand up, and I'm like, whoa, oh, my legs don't want to work. And I didn't think anything of it. We walked out of the gym and there was a restaurant next door. Halfway to the restaurant, my legs just stopped working and I fell on my face. We get into the restaurant. I realized I was sitting down. I ordered, I had to pee. I tried to stand up. I couldn't stand up. So I had to grab a rail and like basically crawl to the bathroom. And I was basically a functional paraplegic for about 3 days. My legs just would not work. And it wasn't even like they were sore. They just would not work. I'm actually surprised I didn't get rhabdo and end up in the hospital, but that was the worst. I told Phil, next time we train, we're not doing those high rep legs. No, we'll do strength shit. The other time was when I got my PICP level 2. So back in the day, PICP level 2 was 5 days. And it was all lower body training. So you train 10 leg sessions in 5 days. So back then too, that's when like all the really successful Poliquin guys that everybody goes to now, everybody sees, that's when we were all going to seminars together. So it was like the biggest, baddest motherfuckers in the gym you'd ever seen. And we're all killing each other. I can remember doing front squats at one session. We're doing front squats like 4 to 6. I think we had close to 200 kilos in the bar. And I came up on a 4th or 5th rep and just collapsed. And they just put the bar back and they keep going, right? I had Owen and John from the Irish Strength Institute. Yeah. I was on the reverse hyper, and Owen screaming at me and calling me bad words and just pushing on the thing, and my lower back was about to blow out. And so halfway through the course, I think we started on a Monday. This is Wednesday night. And I was so nervous systemly taxed. I was so overtrained that I had tremors in my hands and I was stuttering. And I was on the verge of tears. I was on the verge of just emotional crying for no reason. And so I decided there's a Walmart across the street. I'm going to go in there and get some of that deep heat rub stuff and put it on my legs. So I walk across the parking lot. It's also like January or something. So there's like snow everywhere. I walk over and I see all these different types of hot liniments. And so I go, there's a mild, medium, hot, and there's like nuclear holocaust burnout fucking one. So of course I grab that one, go back to the hotel room. I get my underwear and I rub it all over my legs. And I'm laying in bed watching TV and like, yeah, man, it feels good. That's hot. Yeah, that's hot. Oh, fuck, that's hot. Holy shit. Oh my God. I thought I'd rubbed sulfuric acid all over my legs. So I jump up and I run in the living room and I talk to my 2 flatmates and I'm like, I'm jumping around going, I don't know what to do. And they're like, get in the shower and wash it off. So I get in the shower and it's not helping. So I don't know what I was thinking. I drew a bath and I got in the bathtub. So keep in mind, the what's in that deep heat is a volatile oil. So when the oil hit the water, it went everywhere. So I got it all over my junk, all on my butt crack, everywhere. I started freaking out. I put shorts on, a jacket. I went and sat in the snow, and I was just piling snow in my shorts. And my legs were so hot that the snow was melting faster than I could get it in my pants. But at least it took a lot of the burn out of my gonads. So those are the two probably worst things I've ever done. Third worst thing was at the Pollock and Strength Institute. We did Milo Sarcev giant sets, and I did it for the upper body. And I was so crampy the next day when I was driving to the airport that my left lat cramped, and I almost pulled the car into oncoming traffic. Yeah, I've done a lot of crazy dumb shit with training before.
And this is another reason why you have to go and do like the in-person seminars, because you will get some epic stories. You will literally be sitting there like, I thought mine were bad.
Yeah, a lot of the seminar is, hey, listen, don't do this because this is what I did and this is what happened. So don't do that. Learn from my mistakes.
There were some serious stories on that foundations call. We were just sat there like, wow.
It's funny because you know what, I'll tell these stories and people are like, he's so full of shit, but there's always someone in the crowd that was there. There's always someone there like, no, that actually happened just like he said it.
Oh, I remember some of them that come out on the foundations. I was like, I'm not going to put that in place then. There was some serious ones. So in terms of, again, it can also improve. And it's one thing that I noticed that I had to do, especially as a trainer, that when you start getting busy, and that was hobbies. What would you say is one hobby that you like to do? Why is it a kind of, again, try and wrap it up for you? Hobby and a kind of book. Is there a book that you'd recommend? And what's your kind of favorite hobby that you'd like to do away from all of this stuff?
Book. I would say a book. A couple of them. I like sci-fi and fantasy. And one of the reasons why I like sci-fi and fantasy is because if you read that type of stuff and you really think about it, nerds have a really, really good way of teaching philosophy while it's encased in a backstory of fantasy or sci-fi. So I would say like Dune. I love Dune. Like I hesitated on Dune for so many years, and I read it, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And I would say Dune, if you're reading it and you're cognizant about it, it's a very good book about leadership. So I highly recommend that. One of my all-time favorite series is the Sword of Truth series. So starting with Wizard's First Rule, there's a lot of great philosophy all throughout that. Some of the books get a little bit too political and repetitive, but if you can get past that, it's a really good life philosophy stuff of basically saying, take care of yourself before you try to take care of others, and that type of thing. Yeah. So I love that. Currently, what am I reading currently? I've been reading Raymond Feist, the Magician series, and I'm almost done with it. That's been an excellent read too. But like for hobbies, obviously reading. I love playing video games. I finally got an Xbox, the new Xbox. I finally got a new PS5. Unfortunately, I've been too busy to play it, but I love video games because when you play video games, nothing else matters. Like you can shut it off and it just becomes like a time warp. We built a cinema room in our home, so I like watching movies and stuff and just kind of relaxing. And I like to do hobbies that's going to take my mind away from everything else that's going on in the world. I like to draw occasionally. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I like car audio, so I do a lot of car audio fabrication for my car, and which is quite an expensive hobby. So I'm only allowed to do that infrequently over the years. Zoe gets mad.
And you don't piss off the other half. I've learned that very quickly. I'm like, just leave her alone.
The problem is Zoe's an enabler. Zoe has she can never say no to me. So if I say something, she's like, we probably shouldn't do that. And then I do it. And then she's like, fuck, I should have said no. Well, should have said no.
I'm the same. I'm like, I turned around to Jem and I'm like, Jem, I think we should do it. She's like, and it kind of sits there on the fence. I'm like, fuck, I'm doing it then. And she goes, you shouldn't have done that. And I was like, You had that chance to say no, even though I was possibly never going to listen to you anyway. I was going to do it anyway. So, but you could have said no.
Be the voice of reason. Just be my voice of reason. So the thing is, like, my wife, so Zoe, is she's a avid reader. She's a massive bookworm. And so every day, every time the postie comes, it's one or two books, one or two, all that. And she reads them all, man. She cranks through them. But like she spends a lot of money on books. So they're like small purchases. With my hobbies, they're big purchases. So it's like she spreads her hobby out financially. My hobby is like one big lump sum, and then I'm like, well, I can't order anything for a while because that was it for me for like 2 months.
Yeah, I'm exactly same. And what I would say that in terms of the hobbies, for everyone that's listening, everyone hears the hustle, the grind, the hard work, and all of that. And don't get me wrong, has its place. But and I had to notice this as well when I was working in London and I was doing 90-hour weeks. I remember putting it on the forum is I am burnt to shit. I felt like absolute crap, but I had to power through because I had clients. And then literally within the space of 2 months, I had gastroenteritis. Then I think I had the vid around that same time, just a month after. And I can definitely say that I think it was because I was burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
You know, I was fucked. But don't get me wrong, right? We're talking about these hobbies and that. Yes, you have to put the hard work in. Don't forget you have to put the hard work in. If you want to get somewhere in life or in the career that you choose, you know, I know you guys put in a hell of a lot of hard work, but you also have to balance that with, you need to go away and do a hobby and just find something that you love, even if that's just a walk with your dog or whatever it is, you know, find one because it works.
Yeah.
It works so much. It's helped me massively. And I know it's helped many of the other trainers within the program design and the community that you guys have. So I just wanted to add that on.
Yeah, and you know what, the key thing to this too, and I learned this when we first started talking about having a hobby. I learned that the hard way. I'd push myself, 70, 80, 90-hour work weeks, never taking days off. And I got to the point where I had job-related, stress-related job burnout. And I got to the point where I couldn't work. I would sit at my computer for 10 hours and I would just stare at the keyboard. And I knew I needed to work, but I just could not get myself to do anything. When I started talking about adding hobbies in our foundations course, I would ask everyone what their hobby is. And every personal trainer would be like, I like to train. I like to train. I like to train. So I had to be specific. Like training, if you're a personal trainer, training is part of your job. That is not a hobby. That is basically continuing education. That is your career development. It has to be something that's completely unrelated. So then people go, I like to read. What do you like to read? I like to read about training. No, that's defeating the purpose. The point of a hobby is to get away from all this stuff and allow yourself to decompress. And a lot of people say, I don't have time for a hobby. You don't have time to not have a hobby. You have, even if it's only 30 minutes. So like right now, like I'm on my 20th day of working 12 to 14-hour days. It's not something I want to do, but shit has to get done. So I try to combine hobbies. So, I try to combine a hobby with something else I have to do. So I have to bathe. So almost every night I get in the bathtub and I'll be in the bathroom for 30 or 40 minutes and I'll read. So I'll just try to combine those two things at one time. So I'm killing two birds with one stone. But you have to do something because you will eventually burn out. You can't just keep driving without stopping the car at a car rest.
Oh, for definite. And it's something I think a lot of us trainers, we find out the hard way.
Yeah.
Because especially if you're a good trainer, you are so heavily invested in your client. And that means you work ridiculous. You might not work ridiculous hours on the gym floor, but then when you're away on the phone, I remember messaging, I've been up since 4:30 in the morning. I'm messaging clients at 11 p.m. because they're on a night out and they're having a flipping meltdown. And I'm like, and they're calling me on the phone crying. And you're like, I'm turning to Gemma. I'm like, I have to take this call. She's like, it's 11 o'clock at night, James. And I was like, you might have to take it.
But now wait, hold up. I'm
gonna get telling off, guys.
Yeah, no, you have to have dedicated office hours. You have to, and your clients need to respect that, right? There's a point where you're on call, but you're not on call 24/7, 365. So you if you're a coach and you're getting in the industry, you got to set some boundaries. Let people know when you can and can't be contacted, and how soon they should expect a reply from you. Because especially if you're doing like online training, or if your in-person clients have access to you, because they don't need like full-time access to you. They need support, but they can't be infringing on your ability to sleep and your ability to have a life as well. So, and I'll tell you, when I first got in the industry, man, I was selling fitness equipment for my full-time job. So I was managing a fitness place. I would be in at like 9 a.m. I'd be done at 6. I was also training 3 or 4 people before I got there, and I was either training people after or doing deliveries. I did that, man. I worked like that probably Monday through Saturday for probably 15 to 17 years. I was a bit of a workaholic because I love what I do, and it doesn't feel like work, but it will eventually feel like work. For all the younger trainers, I would say get a lot of work done when you're young. You can handle it. When you get to my age, it starts getting harder and harder to maintain that. And my kind of, I don't recommend this strategy, but my strategy when I first started is I would work with no days off until I got sick, and my body forced me to take a week off. So I would work for 6-7 months, then I'd get violently ill with a flu or something else. I'd have to take 7 to 10 days off. And then I would just do this over and over again. You can do that when you're younger. And if you really want to be good at training, you're going to have to put in the hard yards, but you're also going to need to know when to pull the plug on that. And being from America, we're not very good with holidays. Like it's in the corporate world, it's almost frowned upon for you to take sick pay and holiday pay. So a lot of people just work and they never go on holiday. That was a big culture shock for me here, where Australians are very good. And I've noticed that my friends from Europe and everybody's good at taking those holidays. That is absolutely crucial. If I could find a flux capacitor and a DeLorean and I could go back in time, I would slap the shit out of myself. And I would tell myself, this company doesn't give a fuck about you. Take your fucking holiday, because you're not going to be here forever.
For definite. And, I think it's something that I had to learn. And, I tell that story like that 11 o'clock one. And it did get to a point where I was like, look, guys, this, I'm happy. I love training you guys. I love doing what I do. But there has to be a point where Gemma is, at the end of the day, my main priority.
Yeah.
Two ways about it. I love you guys. You're brilliant to train. But she is my fiance. She takes priority over anything and everyone that comes into my life. So I was like, there's a point. I have to cut you off at a certain point. And I think that was about 8 o'clock. So I was up at 4:30 in the morning. So clients knew about 4:30, they would expect some form of message from me. I'm not expecting them to message back, but they'd get a message if they had messaged me at the night. And I cut it off at 8 o'clock, and it has to be done.
Now, I will say something on the opposite side of that. Stop believing these business coaches that say you can work like shit out, like you don't have to work that much and make a lot of money. I'm sorry, it's a pipe dream. It ain't gonna happen, especially if you want to be very good. The only way you're going to become a good trainer is if you're spending thousands of hours training people, thousands of hours in your education, thousands of hours writing programs. You can simply not develop expertise without working hard. So, I tell people, if you're not willing to put in a 50, 60 hour week, a good majority of the time, you're not going to become a very good trainer. And that's just the facts, right? Because you have to be not only writing your programs and studying and dealing with your clients, you got to look at your books and your taxes and talk to your accountant and book it. There's a lot of other admin stuff that comes along with that. So if you are someone who wants this as a part-time job, it's probably not for you, because you're never going to get good. For definite.
It's a full-on job, because even the times where you're like, oh yeah, but I get, okay, the main thing, you're going to see people between 6 and possibly 10. then you might see 1 or 2 in kind of 12 or 12 and 1, and then you might see a load of people 5 till 9 or 5 till 8. So you see quite a few people, and then you have a lot of downtime. That, trust me, is not downtime. It's never downtime.
No, it's not. That's your time to study. That's your time to write programs. That's the time to catch up on your emails, all the admin work that you need to do. And it's so important. You don't want to fall behind on that. You want to make sure you have good systems, good organization, good time management, so you don't fall behind that, because it's a lot harder to catch up. Now I learned that the hard way. When I can remember, God, 17, 18 years ago, I was training. I was one of the first guys at the gym at like 4:35 in the morning. And I was one of the last to leave at like 9 or 10 at night. And I would be working clients solid through that, except maybe 2 hours to train and eat. That was it. And I would do that Monday through Friday. And then on Saturday, I would train usually like a 6 to 8 hour day. And on Sunday, I'd come in. And what ends up happening is your paperwork starts falling behind. I'll put it off. I'm too tired. Make sure you keep up with that, because I found myself in a lot of trouble a lot of times trying to play catch up, and I didn't have time to catch up. So I had to learn how to time manage a little bit better and write my schedule a little bit better. I still have problems with that. I've been doing this for 20 something years. I still have problems with my time management. Luckily, I have Zoe. Zoe fills in those gaps for me.
Yeah. Same with Jem. She has to remind me on self-assessments. She's like, self-assessment, James. I was like, yeah, cool. Hold on, sir. Like, literally, I'm lucky. Jem's in accounts. So I'm like, Jem.
There you go.
I'm not paying you, though. So I was like, when we get to that point where I earn good money, I was like, I'll do everything for you. I was like, but right now, you just do it for free. But let's wrap it up, because I understand you're possibly tired because you've been doing the filming for the hypertension course, which, again, everyone jump on. If you are a trainer, get onto program design, get onto the nutrition. I know a lot of the nutrition's online now. Jump on it. Trust me, for the price that you are paying, jump the fuck on it, because you will learn insane amounts. And then when the hypertension course comes out, we'll put it out on our page. I know that for a definite. We'll also update the links on the podcast and the YouTube, so everyone gets those as well. So again, jump on the Muscle Nerds course. And to wrap up, where can people find you and Muscle Nerds?
Muscle Instagram, obviously. Muscle Nerds _health is our page. There's another The Muscle Nerds. We can't get into that account, so don't message us on that, because I can't get in there. I haven't been able to for years. If you like dirty, nasty, unpolitically correct memes that I'll probably regret putting up, you can go to my Instagram at Luke Leaman, but don't expect any sciencey shit. It's basically all dirty, nasty, dirty, dank memes. That's my account for. It's another one of my hobbies. When I'm taking a poo, I upload all the memes that I found the last few days. And then obviously, Facebook. Everyone's on Facebook. Nobody uses Facebook anymore. You can find us in those places. If you want to inquire about anything, at info@musclenerds.net, not .com.net. So that's basically it. I'm starting to think about doing some TikTok stuff, because I've heard you have to do that, even though I don't want to. I hate social media, but it's got to be done.
I've tried TikTok. I fucking hate it.
Yeah. So many more views I hear, but
I'm not going to and start doing all of this. Mate, if I wanted to do it, no. But yeah, all right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. It's been awesome having you on, Luke. Seriously.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, James. Appreciate it.
Brilliant, man. I loved every minute of it. And so yeah, I hope everyone, find this helpful. We'll pop all the links down on YouTube. It'll be in the YouTube description. In the podcast, it'll be in the podcast description. So everything will be there for you guys. Again, like I said, jump on the freaking courses. I won't tell you twice. I already have told you twice, though. All right, over and out. See you later, guys.